Hi everyone, Kylie Minogue here with Rhyme Signatures, the nerdiest music review this side of spinning around. Move out of my way, I know you're feeling me because you like it like this. And today we're going to be doing a review of the new Caligula's Horse album, Charcoal Grace. Okay, yes, let's briefly address the elephant in the room. Yes, I've moved. Yes, I'm now a homeowner. Yes, it's terrifying, but yes, it's also amazing. Expect me to ricochet around the house for a while whilst I discover the best and most convenient spot to carry on doing these silly little video reviews. So, now that I've briefly discussed an element of my personal life, let's get to the actual point of this video. Caligula's Horse, one of prog metal's modern elites, oft cited alongside veterans Haken, Leprous, Periphery, etc., are finally back after a 4-year gap since their last record, Rise Radiant. Now, I will go on record here as saying that I was in truth not a huge fan of Rise Radiant, and in the lead up to this review I have been doing plenty of catching up on the band's past, and unfortunately my ambivalence to that record still remains. I mean, sure, it's still good, but in comparison to the rest of their discography, I can't help but feel that there was something missing from the formula with Rise Radiant. Sure, it had riffs. Sure, it had grand, sweeping, mountain-topping vocals, as is befitting of a Caligula's Horse album, but it just felt like the band was on an off day for me. So to say that I was apprehensive on the run-up to Charcoal Grace would be an understatement. This concern was further exacerbated by the fact that the band are now operating as a 4-piece rather than a 5, with the departure of guitarist Adrian Golby. He wasn't even replaced, he was just gone. So the traditional twin-attack guitars of Golby and Sam Vallen were officially absent, and my nervousness continued. How would this affect the sound of the band? Can a traditionally 5-piece band survive as a 4? I am pleased to say that Charcoal Grace is an excellent bounce back from Rise Radiant, but it is not without its share of minor concerns that holds it back from achieving the greatness of past albums like In Contact and The Tide, The Thief and River's End. So, for those who aren't in the know, just who are Caligula's Horse? As mentioned earlier, they've fast become one of modern prog metal's elite, and Charcoal Grace is their 6th full-length studio release. I have been following them since their debut album of Moments from Ephemeral City, which came out in 2011, and I've honestly been hooked since day one. Jim Gray's vocals are a huge selling point for the band, and his velvety, smooth, powerful delivery won me over with this extraordinary range. But it was the fluency with how the band communicated with each other that kept me around. The band continued to get better and better over time, with sophomore The Tide, The Thief and River's End really hammering home their message. Bloom showcased their gentler side, and the masterpiece of In Contact found the perfect balance of their sound, and is easily their best record for my money. As I've already mentioned, Rise Radiant left me a little bit cold, but the time I've been spending with Charcoal Grace has been extremely promising. There's one very important thing that you do need to understand about Caligula's Horse in general, though, and that's that their albums do lack one very important thing: immediacy. Each and every one of their records will take time to appreciate, take time to understand, and take time for them to click. My initial spin of Charcoal Grace, well, not unfavourable, did leave me slightly worried that I was in for yet another Rise Radiant situation. But whereas that record never did sink its claws in, by about the 3rd listen of Charcoal Grace I was starting to get on board. The riffs were landing, the vocal hooks were infectious, the grand scheme of the compositions were fitting together like an intricate jigsaw puzzle, and that's honestly what this album is. It's a puzzle. It's a journey and a rewarding tapestry of some of the most complex and intricate work the band has put together so far. I do feel, though, that even after it's clicked, it's not quite as memorable as records like In Contact, which has some of the most infectious and engaging riffs of any prog metal album from the last 10 years. But honestly, being second place to an album like that is still nothing to sniff at. This is easily the strongest Caligula's Horse record since then, and I think I could comfortably call this their 2nd best album, tied with River's End. I do feel the absence of Adrian Golby a little bit, but with how well mixed the album is, it's only a minor issue that is only felt at a select few moments during the album's runtime. The record opens with the 10-minute long The World Breathes With Me, and it's a classic Horse mini-epic. All the component parts are in place, and it glides that fine line between stonking beatdowns and ethereal beauty with expert precision. The The follow-up, and I believe it was the lead single Golem, is a powerful statement of progressive metal. All big riffs, big choruses, and certain to become a fan favourite in a live setting. But let's talk about the meat of the album a little, the 4-part, 20-minute plus epic of the title track. It's been a hot minute since we had an epic of this length, and in honesty, this kind of girthiness isn't common for the band, with only Graves from In Contact breaching the 15-minute mark for them so far. So for a 20-minute epic to come sliding into view is a welcome sight, especially as it feels that the band have so much to prove right now as the progressive metal landscape becomes more and more competitive. It's early days, of course, but I'd be hard-pressed to see this as anything less than an Epic of the Year contender. It's a fantastic sonic journey from start to finish that really does see the band pulling out all the stops and crafting some of the most engaging and rewarding music that we've seen from them so far. There's a deep, vulnerable, personal angle to the lyricism, especially on the second part, A World Without, and then the stripped-down instrumentation and strongly audible finger-sliding on acoustic guitars of third part, Vigil, that continues to emphasise the very human essence of the feel of this song. It all ends in a suitably bombastic and climactic fashion with final part, Give Me Hell, but it's really the last 3 tracks where Charcoal Grace won me over and cemented this into Caligula's Horse royalty. As I say, I've been a huge fan of Jim Gray's vocals for over a decade now, and I make no secret that I'm a vocally driven music fan at the end of the day. So the track Sails is a clear and obvious favourite. It's a down-tempo, chilled out, expansive, lush and full experience, with Jim making full use of his extraordinary scope and range to deliver the performance of his life. Just thinking about the melodies used, the cadence of his delivery and heartfelt vulnerability that he exudes from every single note just brings shivers all over me. It's an extraordinary ballad and signals that the best of this album is in its latter half. Third single off the album and penultimate track, The Storm Chaser, is another absolute stomper, featuring one of the grooviest choruses and stands tall as the most immediately engaging track on the album, which really does feel quite significant given how dense the sound of the record is overall. I found myself crooning along to the chorus almost immediately on this one, and I've been enjoying motivating myself during my house move with its inspirational qualities. The band have arguably saved the best until last though with the final track of Mute. Opening with a melodic and haunting monologue from Jim Gray, but not quite on the same level as the purely narrative spoken word track Inertia and the Weapon of the Wall from In Contact, it sets the tone perfectly, not only for the song, but feels as a sort of retrospective for the entire album. There's a darkness, a sense of regret tinged with the sadness and acceptance about it all. The guitars are mournful, the mood is dour, and the silence broken and punctuated by that ever-present sense of humanity and innocence delivered by the entire band. There's a section where a flute solo delicately steps out across the rest of the music, and just thinking about that sound is enough to bring tears to my eyes. It's a masterstroke of atmospherics and technicality, and is easily one of my all-time favourite Caligula's Horse songs, nipping at the heels of the mighty Graves, but not quite overtaking it. But as I've already mentioned in this review, there's no shame in coming in second place to anything off In Contact. It is, however, a perfect showcase of the band, their current sound, and gives us a strong, powerful statement that this band is back, feeling confident in themselves, and are ready to take on the world again, and remind us why we all fell in love with this band in the first place. So, what else can I say about Caligula's Horse's Charcoal Grace? I was really worried about this one. I've loved this band since their very first faltering steps, and given the 4-year wait, the loss of a band member, and my disappointment with their previous album, I was preparing myself to sigh deeply and have my expectations scuppered once again. I've never been this pleased to be this wrong, and while this certainly isn't a perfect album by any stretch whatsoever, it takes a while for it to stick, there's not a huge variety in moods, sounds or textures throughout, and it's certainly not doing anything new or surprising. It is still an incredibly solid, enjoyable slice of light progressive metal that could very easily swing people to this kind of music with very little effort. It's got enough riffs and heaviness to satisfy those looking for something with a bit of bite, but with sufficiently innocent enough moods and vocal hooks to grab those who are usually more into the progressive rock side of the coin. If this is your first exposure to Caligula's Horse, then I think this is a fantastic starting point. It does feel like the band are on the heel turn and about to launch into the next part of their career with a passionate energy and fierce determination. And if Charcoal Grace is anything to go by, the best of the band is still yet to come. I will be grabbing a physical copy of this one, if only so I can display the absolutely gorgeous album art in my fabulous new home, which I'm still coming to terms with is actually mine. Ooh! This is all, of course, my opinion, as you know, guys, so if you have listened to Charcoal Grace, please tell me what you thought of this record in the comments down below. If you did like this video, please do give it a thumb, please do share it around with anyone else you think would possibly enjoy it, and as always, please do consider subscribing to the channel for some more content. I will be leaving my link tree down below where you'll find all the various places to find me on social media, so please do drop me a follow to find out what I get up to outside of the camera. And until next time, guys, as always, keep your rhyme signatures extremely odd.